Let's talk to Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South for a little bit. Connor, what's up, bro? How's it going?
Going pretty well. I don't get as locked into all things college baseball until really the teams get to Omaha, and the SEC inevitably has about half the field. But it sounds like life is pretty good at Arkansas right about now.
Man, Connor, I'm with you there. I'll get in when they're at the regionals, and now they're going to host a super regional, and just watching them play as a team, and I guess you could kind of equate it to like when Alabama played Notre Dame about 15 years ago. Manti Te'o was there in the national championship game, and you could just look at the two sides and say, man, one of them's been through a lot more college off seasons than the other one. This Arkansas Razorback team, they just look bigger and stronger than when you just match the guys up.
Yeah, and look, that's got to be a nice feeling. It has to be a really nice feeling knowing that, because as I know LSU showed us with their regional struggles, that's not a given. That's not a given. You can't just show up to the ballpark and look the part. And I remember my brother played college baseball at Valparaiso, and I think his first real college moment where that sank in of how different it is in the SEC was actually when he played at Arkansas, and he had this realization of, oh my goodness, the SEC, they have a different way of college baseball, and that's evident to those across the country who consume the sport.
Hey, Connor, I want to get your opinion a little bit on a football topic, and it kind of involves Shedeur Sanders. And my thing is, he's a 5th-round pick. Why are we talking so much about him? But I kind of get it. What was your kind of grade on him, or how do you kind of see him fitting in, being able to play on Sundays?
I think it's going to be really tough for him to break through, just because when you're a 5th-round pick and there's just nothing really guaranteed to you, there is such a tougher climb to be able to make. And I get why people are obsessed with talking about him. If he had been a 3rd-round pick or even a 2nd-round pick, we're probably not talking about it as much. But because of the slide, the way that it happened, everybody is now eager to figure out, all right, is he actually someone that's going to step into a backup situation and do well, or is he going to be someone that just never really gets an opportunity? And that was the decision that was made on draft day. Unless you're a 1st-round quarterback, there's just nothing that's guaranteed to anybody that drafts you later, and that's going to be his issue moving forward in a really crowded quarterback room that still hasn't really sorted itself out. But I know that I'm definitely not taking anything from 7-on-7s, and I don't like to do that at the college level. I hate when people overreact to that in recruiting. I'm like, what is the point of this? This is not actual football that we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Shedeur is going to continue to drive headlines as long as he is in the NFL.
I know it's kind of. I was talking with Phil. I think it was last week. Kind of feels like a Tim Tebow thing, where it's like he was a 5th-round pick. He's the 4th. Why are we talking about him so much? And then here I am talking about him so much. But I want to talk a little college football with you. And I saw a little bit of this 5+11 college football playoff model. Can you help me understand that?
Yeah, so the 5-11 playoff model for a potential 16-team playoff that would begin in 2026, it seems to be gaining legitimate traction, and there was a lot of talk at the SEC spring meetings that the 4-4-2-2-1 model, which would have 4 auto bids for both the Big Ten and the SEC, and then 2 auto bids for the Big 12 and ACC, with one highest-ranked group of 5 conference champ getting that other bid, and then the at-larges. The 5-11 model is more popular across college football because it's just highest ranked conference champs for those power conferences, highest ranked for seemingly a group of 5 conference champ, and then just 11 at-large bids. That would be the model that wouldn't necessarily alienate the Big 12 and ACC, neither of whom would like to just hand over twice as many auto bids to both the Big Ten and the SEC. And so there's this feeling, even I think, as you see among SEC coaches, of, well, 5-11 would be great. The SEC could have 6 teams in a 5-11 model, and they could be giving bids away if they stick to this 4 guaranteed bids in the way that could set up with less at-large bids at stake. Like last year was a down year for the SEC, but all those 9-3 teams in the SEC that have been crying about not getting into the playoff, they would have made it in with the 5-11 model with the 16-team field. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It feels like that's going to dictate whether or not we get an 8-game or a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC moving forward. But yeah, it feels like there is going to be a real decision that's made, and the deadline being December 1st. It feels like we're going to get some clarity on that really soon.
What are you in favor of? Phil and I talked a little bit about if they're going to do an SEC Big Ten matchup where you can kind of I know there's the conferences aren't equal right now, but then that would essentially mean a Big Ten, that extra game, that'd be big time as far as playing 10 hard games, because you got to remember it's going to add another loss to it. Do you think the SEC goes to the 9-game schedule?
I don't, because I think they're only going to do it if they get the 4 auto bids.
Mm-hmm.
And for those wondering, well, why is the 4 auto bids a thing? Like, why is there such a push to be able to get that? Why do you hear Greg Sankey continuing to talk about it? And it's because administrators want guarantees. Presidents, athletic directors, they want the guarantee of that $1.3 billion playoff pie that is going to be up for grabs. And they want to make sure that in this new era of college athletics, wherein budgets are different than they were at any point in the history of college sports, they want those guarantees coming in each and every year. And so that's why there is this push to get as many of those bids as possible instead of having the potential variance. Do I think that there would ever be years in which the SEC would have less than 4 teams in a 16-team field? No, I really don't. Like last year, the SEC had 3 of the 12, and that felt like such a down year for the SEC. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we will eventually get to the 5-11. If I'm guessing, I think that will happen. I'd be okay with that. I want the sport to feel national, even though the way that national championships have played out in the 21st century wouldn't suggest it's a truly national sport. But I think that we'll eventually get the 5-11 model, but that would mean probably an 8-game conference schedule without those guarantees in place.
All right, I know it's way too early, and I just want to add, Notre Dame, do they make the playoff 12 this year? I know it's way too early.
I think they miss. And I think they go 10-2 with a loss to Boise State. And there are people that are looking at what Notre Dame did last year and assuming that because they're not playing in a conference championship game that they're a yearly lock to make the field. I don't think that's the case. If they had lost one more game last year, they weren't making the field at 10-2. Mm-hmm. Now, they lost the one game that everybody is going to point to and say that's the worst loss of the playoff era for any team that made. Yeah, and like that was such an inexcusable thing that at the time it was hard to even wrap your head around an 11-1 Notre Dame team making the field, and then we know what they ultimately became. But I think they're going to miss this year. I think the schedule is a little bit trickier than it was last year, where they only had like 3 true road games last year. Georgia kind of has a similar thing this year, where it's only 3 true road games, the way that it sets up. Very odd that it's played out that way with a couple of the neutral site games. But, yeah, I think that Notre Dame could be in a tough spot. And we'll see what it looks like. A lot of defensive turnover. They've obviously got a new starting quarterback with C.J. Carr looking like he's going to be QB1 there. So we'll wait and see. But, man, I think that Boise State matchup is going to be really, really tricky. Even without Ashton Jeanty, they return a lot more talent than people probably realize.
And something that's going to happen a lot quicker is the college baseball championship in Omaha. Give me, I know, like you're kind of like you said, I kind of jump in a little bit around now. Arkansas has just as good a chance to win it, hang a banner as any of them. Give me kind of maybe 1 or 2 teams that you're kind of pulling for that you got as the favorites.
If not now, then when for Arkansas, right? The field is already set up extremely well to have Vandy go down, to have Texas go down. Like, is this the time? That's what it has to feel like. If not now, then when? And that's what I'll keep coming back to. And for Arkansas fans that say, well, there's just always going to be that thing in the back of your mind after the way that things have played out. Obviously in Omaha, we don't need to go down that road again. But look what Tennessee did last year. Tennessee was the program that was never going to be able to get over the hump. And here Tennessee was last year as the number 1 overall seed. And the number 1 overall seed hadn't won at all since the first year, when Miami did back in 1999, I think it was, when they changed the seeding in the postseason. If not now, then when? I think that it happens this year for Arkansas, a team that's too good to stumble, and I think ultimately they're the ones that are able to get it done.
I like it. I like exactly the same. If not now, then when? Our team, they just They look the part. I always say you got to have some action superstars, and then when you watch Aloy play shortstop, he just kind of glides. Whenever you see a player that's just kind of gliding or making it look easy, it's because they're better than everybody else, and he really does look the part.
Yeah, Dave Van Horn's got to be considered one of the top coaches in big-time college sports without a championship. Mm-hmm. And that list is not particularly long.
Well, Division I, I think he won. Did he win a Division II or he won somewhere?
Yeah, Division II championship.
Yeah. I kind of put him as like the best golfer to not win a major. Like it's kind of he wins some turn, but hasn't just got that one yet.
Yeah, and we always talk about those guys in football because that list is a little bit longer. It's weird, in football. There's Steve Sarkisian and Dan Lanning and Brian Kelly and all these guys that have kind of not gotten over the hump, even though they've had really good teams. But baseball, it just kind of always feels like, man, eventually it's got to be your time. And with the SEC just rotating different teams that have won it all in the 2020s, yeah, I mean, why not now for Dave Van Horn?
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet online. The game starts here.